All right, welcome back, Prospect Live viewers. We're back with another 2021 MLB draft interview. In the hot seat today is probably one of Prospects Live's favorite pitchers in the draft, a guy that we were on early on, and obviously really excited for what he's going to be doing in 2021. But that is Rod Boone. Rodney Boone, welcome to the show, my man. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good, doing good.
Doing all right, man. We're doing all right. I want to jump right into it because Ralph really covered it. We kind of fell in love with the arsenal and the data behind your stuff going back into this summer. And I want to just, for any of the viewers that don't know Rod Boone, I want you to kind of introduce yourself as a pitcher. Who are you on the mound? What do you bring to the bump? And how can you help your team win?
First off, I like to think I'm a really good competitor. When you dive into sort of the data and that sort of stuff, I'd say I have a vertical axis fastball, so it carries out a little bit longer than your traditional four-seamer. And I have a good changeup that has a good vertical separation. And now I'm developing my curveball a bit more, which is nice because I've really been working on that for quite some time now.
Absolutely. And we saw you in, one of the inter squad games recently. A lot of your stuff, was certainly playing up. But, I'm interested to, I guess, sort of start off with what are your goals in terms of where you're at right now to sort of where you want to be, we'll say, next June, next July, at sort of draft time. Are you looking at specific things in terms of like your IVB and just keeping the efficiency there while also try to bump up some velocity? Like, what are some of the goals that you sort of have as a pitcher just from a data and a training standpoint?
I think I'd like to maintain my data at the moment and really increase velocity. At least start touching 93, maybe even a little more. Something I've been working towards a long time, and I'm hoping just clicks because I feel I'm doing the work that I need to be doing. So it'd be nice to see that 93 on the gun or 94. So.
Now you've touched 90. You've touched twos, and have you hit a 3 yet?
I have not, no.
Okay, but you're right on the precipice. I wanted to ask, you'd mentioned when you were kind of describing yourself that you're a high riding fastball, vertical axis kind of guy. Is that something that you really focus on in training, or is that, when you started throwing a fastball, you just noticed, hey, I throw it a little bit different than other guys?
I guess it's gone a long way too. Even when I was just first pitching, as a 9 or 10-year-old, kind of always just over the top more. And even though I've thrown a little lower than other guys, it's had a result still. Even though it didn't visibly move like a sitter would, it still had some nice results. And I feel it's a big reason why I can pitch the way I do.
And when was your sort of your first introduction to sort of the data side of things? And I guess, sort of digging in a little bit on that and really getting to know yourself, I guess, metrically. Because it's unusual. Not a lot of guys, even high-level guys that we spoke with, necessarily sort of have that acumen. So I guess I'm sort of interested as to, when did you first become interested in it, and when did it really become readily available to you?
I would say my freshman year at Santa Barbara. They're very big. Well, one of the reasons I chose school was because when I sat on the coach tickets after my sophomore year, he just said we are big on development, and I knew at the time I needed a lot of developing in terms of physicality and mentally and all that sort of stuff. So I stepped on campus, and the first thing is you throw a bullpen with all these things on you, like camera, you have the Rhapsody, the TrackMan, and you for the first time see the radar gun, and I'm like, wow, that is slower than I thought. So I throw it, and after that, a few days later, we started diving into the spin rates, what they try and do with you, and they have a slow-mo camera, so you kind of look at what the balls don't release, and I just kind of fell in love with it quickly because I think it doesn't predict success, but it certainly helps you make adjustments a lot quicker. Know why you're getting swings and misses here, or why this result or this pitch gives that result. and it's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it won't predict success by any means, but it is a predictive behavior that you can try to deploy on the mound that has generally seen success as long as it's executed well. But your fastball gets plenty of love, and as you said, you're still working on adding a little bit of velo to it. I want to talk about the changeup because you got a really good changeup. You got a great feel for your changeup. You command it well. And you had mentioned before we went on air that it's been a pitch that you've really leaned on since your younger years. Can you kind of talk about the development and more specifically the development of the feel for the pitch? Because that's something that most pitchers struggle with.
I'd say when I was younger, my parents told me I should not be throwing curveballs because the fame thing that it leads to more stress on the elbow. That was just our school of thought, not other schools of thought. But so I always just threw a fastball changeup until really my sophomore summer where I started throwing curveballs. And I'd say that's kind of helped me with the feel of it, being able to command it more consistently. And when I got to school, Checkers recruited me for my curveball. And, that was just, it spun really well, but it just wasn't there from a command standpoint. And, I wanted to compete for, the weekend job as a freshman. So I really, dove into the changeup. And they started getting me to pronate it more and to kill more lift, more separation between the fastball and it, the changeup. So I kind of just carried over my feel for it. Turning it over, and I kind of just throw it at the the right knee of the catcher, and that's kind of my throwing finger down on that, and kind of just hope it in sideways and they swing and miss.
I got a really quick follow-up on that, Ralph, just
Sure.
because I think it pertains to it.
Absolutely.
From some of the outings that we've watched, it seems like you like to deploy that pitch up in the zone. Not only down and in, down and away, but you also like to maybe fool batters with it up in the zone. Is that part of your arsenal? Is that something you take pride in? Is that a tactic, if you will?
I feel like when I throw it up in the zone, it's a bad one. Like I stand kind of just floating up there. But sometimes I get a little buckle just to, it doesn't run into the batter as much as they would. It would.
Didn't mean to call you out.
It works sometimes. So,
Yeah. Well, those are the ones I've noticed. So.
Yeah.
But I was going to say in the scrimmage, that we recently watched, 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, the changeup was it seemed like it was working everybody, and no one could seem to sort of figure it out. We've talked about some of the good stuff, and obviously, dug into the data a little bit. I'm interested to hear: is there anything you've tried out over the last couple of years that didn't work, or anything that you felt was like a failure? Like, did you try a cutter or a different breaking ball or a different grip or something, and it was just like you scrapped it right away?
I feel like I'm a really good pronator, but I'm a terrible supinator. So when it comes to cutting it or sliding at the ball, I have a really difficult time going that way with the ball. So it's something that we tried adding my freshman year before season, and it just didn't work out. But we develop it in catch. That's where our coach usually develop our pitches and catch play. So I kept doing that over the summer, and I played around with it a little bit, and I'll throw a few good ones, but just so consistent. So it's just really difficult, to master. And I feel my curveball has the ingredients to be a good pitch, so I feel like practicing that command is advantageous as well.
I wanted to add, for someone that understands the data as well as you do, Rodney, obviously that's become a huge revolution at the big league level. I wanted to know if there's a guy at that next level that you kind of look at and you maybe see some similarities in, maybe that you try to emulate, someone that's having success that you just think, that could be me with what I throw.
I know Kershaw has a very vertical ride fastball, and he sort of cuts it a little bit because he has a vertical axis on it. But, I like what he's done with his fastball and his curveball. It's he really competes with it and command it anywhere he wants to, and I would say that's something I'm trying to do.
Not a bad name.
Yeah, not absolutely. Are there any players that amateur collegiate guys that you played with, either at Santa Barbara or sort of coming up, in the travel ball ranks, that sort of thing, that you've competed with or sort of taken something away from?
I would say I met Gage Jump over the summer. And he has that low release height with the very low vertical approach, and he throws so hard for his size, and it's kind of learning kind of what he does with his body to get in positions and throw that fast is something I was trying to learn from.
Are you strong on the kinetic side? Is that something that you've dove into and studied and just trying to optimize your kinetic chain?
I feel I can get a little too analytic on that sort of sense sometimes, and it can kind of handcuff me, and I kind of get like stiff and not as loose free as I would like to be. So I think there's a fine line when discussing mechanics.
That's good self-awareness. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's I guess we'll keep on digging in on this a little bit, but if there's sort of a piece of advice that you could give to, other amateur players that are, earlier on in sort of their journey, high school guys, maybe even earlier, is there a piece of advice or just, a particular piece of data or training, anything that you would sort of be like, do this, try this, know this, like just focus on this? I'm sure there's got to be something,
I think the biggest thing is ask yourself the question of what you're doing today lines up with where you want to be in 5 years. The answer is, not when I'm like, if I'm going out and doing something that's not really going to be helping what I want to do in 5 years from now, I really want it that much.
Those are words to live by outside of just baseball, I'd say. Well, let's talk about your growth because you'd mentioned that you want to put a little bit more velo on, 2 or 3 miles an hour before next June. You seem like the type of guy that would be really engaged in specific drills and specific training exercises to up that. What are you doing or what do you plan to do in the next 6 months to try and add that velo? Or is it something as simple as, continuing to keep your arm loose?
I feel like first and foremost, I'm strong, so I'm trying to get sort of more twitchy and do exercises that reflect that. So just being more jumpy and elastic, and so I've been trying to incorporate some more of that into my workout. And then getting that whippy feeling in my arm. I feel like I can get stuck sometimes, and having that whippy feeling is, I can throw hard, easy, intense. And that's something I've been missing for a while, I think. But I think I'm hopefully starting to grasp it again.
Sort of on that same vein, and we typically ask this at the beginning of the show, but we didn't this time. But backing up a little bit, just in terms of everything that we've dealt with COVID and all those restrictions, there was a period here where your season got shut down, and you probably had a period where like you struggled to maybe train. What did you do over that, we'll say 2 or 3 month period, where a lot of stuff was obviously closed and shut down?
Well, my dad and I used to CrossFit together, so we have a garage gym, a pretty nice setup in the garage. So when I came home, I knew I was like 186, 187. I knew I would gain some weight, so I just hit there and tried some weight, and now I'm around 195, 200. And I feel I'm pretty lean now, which is really where I want to be. Not too like chunky in a sense.
I don't have too many more baseball questions for you. I've got 2 more. One of them is in regards to what UCSB is going to be throwing on the bump this year. They've got you, who you're a cerebral, big data lefty coming from a pretty low slot, to then McGreevy, who is a bigger righty, higher release, touches 97, 96. You guys are going to be a headache for hitters. What can you say about McGreevy, and what can you say about your pitching staff?
I'd say it's deeper than just us two. I feel a name that gets left out a lot is Zach Oro as well. He was on our weekend rotation last year, and he's in that similar boat with a good right on his fastball, and he has a good slider and curveball. But beyond the weekend rotation, it's very deep. I would say like most years you have 5, 6, 7 guys that you can come to pitch, and after this fall, I feel like 13, 14 guys could really be pitching. So it's very competitive right now.
Hit him with your follow-up question, Joe. I'm all out, so go right ahead, buddy.
My follow-up question is actually something that we asked Mason Black. Being a smaller school, Lehigh kid, you being at UCSB, obviously a little bit deeper tradition as it pertains to pitching, but does it mean anything to you coming from a small school with guys like, Corey Kluber and Shane Bieber and some of those smaller school guys that have just gone on to do incredible things at the next level? Is there a chip on your shoulder?
I feel like if you're good, people will find it sooner or later. And I really hope they don't cancel regionals and super regionals and that sort of stuff, because we really feel that we can compete against the Power 5 schools with our pitching staff, and our bats are coming around this year.
Would be fun to watch.
Absolutely.
For sure.
I think that sort of wraps it up for us here on the interview. Rod, thanks for joining us. Best of luck. We'll be rooting for you. You're ranked highly, so make us look good too, man. But much appreciating your time and all your insight and all the different stuff that you're working on, and much appreciated. Good luck.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.